Just came back from the camping trip. Don't know if my voice is up for it, but my schedule says it's gotta be. I'm gonna try to go back to reading one book a night. And we should be done by the 7th with no more setbacks. Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we're reading pages 212 to 228 of Scythe, chapters 21 to 22. To punish myself for not reading and missing March 22nd for this book, I'm actually not going to do it with Cookie Clicker today. It's a personal punishment, which means no flashy colors to keep me awake or entertained while I read. But I don't need that to entertain me. I just need my good book. But I am tired because these past couple nights I've been going to bed super early, so I can wake up super early to get some breakfast. The camping trip went well. It was genuinely casual. I'm happy that Shorts video came out the day it did. I didn't know if it was or wasn't because of the online. But yeah. Without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 21. Branded. The party continued another day, the festival of excess on all levels. Rowan joined in the revelry, but it was more out of the obligation than anything. It was the center of attention, the celebrity of the moment. In the pool, beautiful people bobbed toward him. At the buffet, guests cleared the way so he could always be in front of the line. It was awkward, yet heady. He couldn't deny that there was a part of him that enjoyed the surreal nature of the celebratory attention. The lettuce elevated to the place of honor. It was only when the other side's attendant shook his hand and wished him luck in the mortal competition against Citra that he sobered and remembered what was at stake. He burrowed brief snippets of sleep in cabana, always awakened by music or raucous laughter or fireworks. Then late in the afternoon on the second day, when Scythe got enough, he merely whispered so and word spread quickly. In less than an hour, the guests had left, and the servants began to clean the detritus of revelry in the eerily silent grounds. Not only the other residents of the estate remained, Scythe Goddard, his three junior Scythe, the servants, and the girl, Esme, who peered out of her bedroom window at Rowan like a wraith, as he sat in the Goddard's cabana, waiting whatever came next. Scythe Volta approached, his yellow robes blowing in the breeze. "What are you still doing out here?" he asked. "I have nowhere else to be," Rowan told him. "Come with me," Volta said. "It's time to begin your training." There was a wine cellar in the basement of the main house. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of bottles of wine rested in brick alcoves, the bare minimum of bulbs lit in place, casting long shadows and making the alcoves seem like portals of undisclosed hells. Scythe Volta led Rowan down to the central chamber of the cellar, where Goddard and the other sides waited. Scythe ran, produced a device from a green robe. It looked like a cross between a gun and a flashlight. "Why do you know what this is?" she asked. "It's a tweaker," Rowan told her. He had used the occasion several years ago that his nanites tweaked when the teachers decided the moodiness had crossed the line of depression. That was 5 or 6 years ago. The tweaking was painless, and the effect was subtle. But he hadn't noticed much of a change, but everyone agreed that he began to smile more. "Arms out, legs spread," said Scythe Rand. Rowan did as he was told as Scythe Rand pressed the tweaker all over his body like some sort of magic wand. Rowan felt a mild tingling in his extremities that quickly faded. He stepped back, and Scythe Goddard approached. "Have you ever heard the expression 'being made'?" asked Scythe Goddard, "or 'being jumped in'?" Rowan shook his head, noticing that the other sides had positioned themselves around him, leaving Rowan at the center of the circle. "Well, you're about to find out what that means." The other sides had removed the cumbersome outer robes and took out their tunics and knickers. They took aggressive stance. They looked at determination on each of their face, and maybe a little joyous anticipation. Rowan knew what was about to happen an instant before it began. Scythe Chomsky, the largest of them, stepped forward and, without warning, swung his fist, attacking with Rowan's cheek so hard he spun around, lost his footing, and fell into the dusty floor. Rowan felt the shock of the punch. He jagged a bolt of bane and waited for the telltale warmth of nanites releasing pain-killing opioids to the bloodstream. But relief didn't come. Instead, pain swelled. It was horrible, overwhelming. Rowan had never experienced such pain. He never knew such pain could even exist. "What did you do?" he wailed. "What did you do to me?" "We turned off your nanites," Scythe Volta said calmly, "so you could experience what our ancestors once did." "There's a very old expression," Scythe Goddard told him. "To be painless is to be gainless." He ripped Rowan warmly on the shoulder. "And I wish you to gain much." When he stood back, signaled the others to advance, and they began to beat Rowan into a pulp. Recovery without an aid of healing nanites was a slow, miserable process that seemed to get worse before it got better. The first day, Rowan longed to die. The second day, he thought he actually might. His head pounded, his thoughts swam. He slipped in and out of consciousness with little warning. It was hard to breathe. He knew he had several broken ribs, And although Scythe Chomsky had painfully popped his dislocated shoulder back into place at the end of the beating, it was still ached with each heartbeat. Scythe Volta visited him several times that day. He sat and Rowan, spoon-feeding him soup and bolting where he spilled from his swollen lips, where he seemed to be a halo around him, but Rowan knew it was optical damage that caused the effect. He wouldn't be surprised if he had to detach retinas. It burns, he told Volta as the salty soup spilled over his lips. It does for now, Volta told him with a genuine compassion, but it will pass, and you'll be better for it. How could I be better for any of this? He asked, horrified of how distorted liquid words sounded, as if he were speaking through a blowhole of a whale. Volta fed him another spoonful of soup. 6 months from now, you'll tell me if I was right. Yes, Volta, for taking the time to visit him when no one else did. You can call me Alsalandro, Volta said. Is that your real name? Rowan asked. No, idiot. It's Volta's first name. Rowan supposed that it is close to anyone got to knowing anyone else about the Scythedom. Thank you, Alessandro. On the evening of the second day, the girl, the one who Goddard said was so important, came into his room between deliriums. What was her name again? Amy? Emmy? Oh yes, Esme. I hate that they did this to you, she said with tears in her eyes, but you'll get better. Of course he'd get better. He didn't have the choice in the matter. In mortal days, one died or recovered. Now there was only one option. Why are you here? To see how you were getting on, she said. No, I mean here. In this place. She hesitated before she spoke, then looked away. Scythe Goddard and his friends came to the mall near where I lived. They gleaned everyone in the food court except for me. When I told me to come with him, so I did. It didn't explain anything, but it was the only explanation she offered, perhaps the only one she knew. From what Rowan could see, this girl served no discernible function at the estate. Yet Goddard gave orders that anyone who ran afoul to her would be severely disciplined. She was not to be bothered in any way, and was allowed a free run of the estate. She was the biggest mystery he'd encountered yet in Scythe Goddard's world. I think you'll be better Scythe than the others, she told him, but gave no explanation as to why he thought so. Perhaps it was a gut feeling, but she couldn't be more wrong. I won't be a Scythe, he told her. She was the first person she confessed to. You will if you want to, she said, and I think you'll want to. Then she left him to ponder the pain and the possibility. Scythe Goddard didn't show his face in Rowan's room until day 3. How are you feeling? He asked. Rowan wanted to spit at him, but he knew it would hurt too much. It might even bring out a second beating. How do you think I'm feeling? Rowan answered. He sat at the edge of the bed and studied Rowan's face. Come see yourself. And he helped Rowan out of bed. And Rowan hobbled to the ornate wardrobe in which was a full-length mirror. Rowan barely recognized himself. His face was swollen and it was pumpkin-like. Purple bruises all over his face and bloody were molting in other shades of the spectrum. There was where your life begins, Goddard told him. What you see is the boy dying. A man will emerge. That was a load of crap, Rowan said, but not even caring what the response might evoke. Goddard merely raised an eyebrow. Perhaps. But you can't deny that it's a turning point in your life, and every turning point must be marked by an event. One that burns itself into you and indelibly of the brand. So, he was branded. Yet, he suspected that this was just the beginning of a much larger trial by fire. The world longs to be like us, Goddard told Rowan, talking and doing what we choose, with neither consequence nor remorse. They would steal our robes and wear them if they could, and even given them the opportunity to become greater than royalty. So at the very least it requires the rite of passage I have provided for you. Goddard stood there, studying Rowan with a few moments more. Then he pulled out a tweaker from his robes. Arms up, legs spread. Rowan took a deep breath as he could, and did as he was told. Goddard wanted him. Rowan felt tingling extremities, but when it was done, he didn't feel warmth or opioids or deadening of his pain. It still hurts, Rowan told him. Of course it does. I didn't activate your painkillers, just your healing nanites. You would be good as new by morning, and ready to begin your training. But from this moment on, you'll feel every measure of your body's pain. Why? Rowan dared to ask. What person in the right mind would want to feel that kind of pain? Right-mindedness is overrated, Goddard said. I'd rather have a mind that's clear than one that's right. In the business of death, we Scythes have no competition, unless of course you consider fire. Fire kills just as swiftly and completely as a Scythe's blade. It's frightening, but also somehow comforting to know that there's one thing the Thunderhead can't fix. One type of damage that revival centers are powerless to undo. Once one's goose is cooked, it's truly and permanently cooked. Death by fire is the only natural death left. It almost never happens, though the Thunderhead monitors heat on every inch of the planet, and the fighting of fires often begins before that one can smell smoke. There are safety systems in every home and every office building, with multiple levels of redundancy in that case. The more extreme tone cults try to burn their deadish, but make it permanent, but amber drones usually get to them first. Isn't it good to know that we're all safe from the threat of the inferno? Except, of course, when we're not. From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curie. Chapter 22. Sign of Bedent. Citra's days are filled with training and gleaning. Each day, Citra would go out to Scythe Curie into towns that were selected completely at random. She would watch as the Scythe prowled the streets and malls and parks, becoming like a lioness in search of vulnerable prey. Citra learned to see the signs of stagnant, as Scythe called them. Although Citra was not convinced that she was about her readiness and glean, Citra wondered how many of her own days had been filled with a world weariness before coming to the apprentice of death. If Scythe had come across Citra in one of those days where the woman had gleaned her, they passed an elementary school one day and was letting out, and Citra was sinking feeling that she would glean one of the students. I never gleaned children, Scythe told her. I never found a child who seemed to get stagnant. But even if I did, I wouldn't do it. I've been admonished from Conclave about it, but they've never taken disciplinary action against me. Scythe Faraday was had such no rule. He is strictly about statistics from the age of mortality. Fewer pre-adolescents died in those days, but they did die on an occasion. In their time together, Citra had known him only to do one such gleaning. He did not invite Rowan or her, and at the dinner that night he broke into uncontrollable sobbing and had to excuse himself. If Citra was ordained, he vowed to follow the policy like Scythe Curie, even if it got her into trouble with the selection committee. Almost every night, she and Scythe would prepare dinner, and the mourning family members. Most would leave with their spirits lifted. Some would remain inconsolable, resentful, hateful, but they were in the minority. Such is life and death for Citra in the days before the harvest conclave. She didn't help but think of Rowan and wonder how he was faring. She longed to see him, and she dreaded at the same time, because she knew in a few short months she'd be seeing him for the last time, one way or another. When she held on to the narrow hope that she would prove Scythe Faraday was taken out of the fellow Scythe, perhaps that would be a monkey wrench hurled into the relentless gearworks of the Scythedom, a monkey wrench that could free Citra from having to glean or be gleaned by Rowan. Most of the bereaved that Citra had to notify were the same: husband, wives, children, parents. At first, he had been resented that Scythe made her the front line of these heartbroken people, but soon she came to understand why. It wasn't so that Scythe could avoid it, it was so Citra could experience it and learn how to compassion in the face of tragedy. It was emotionally exhausting but rewarding. It was preparing her to be a Scythe. Only one time did her post-gleaning experience differ. The first part of her job was tracking down the immediate family of the gleaned. There was one woman who seemed to have no immediate family, just one estranged brother. It was odd in this time when extended families were more often than not a convoluted web spanning 6 living generations or more. Yet this poor woman had only a brother. Citra mapped out the address, went there, and wasn't paying all that much attention. She didn't know where she was until she was right in front of the place. It wasn't a home, not in the traditional sense. It was a monastery, a walled abode, compounded style in the historical missions. But unlike those ancient structures, the symbol and apex of the central steeple of the cross, and two-pronged tuning fork. The bident was the sign of the tone cults. It was a tonist monastery. Citra shivered at the way one shivers at the prospect of something vaguely alien, darkly mystic. Stay away from those lunatics, her father once told her. People get sucked in and never seen again. Which was a ridiculous thing to say. No one truly disappeared in the day of age. The Thunderhead knows exactly where everyone is at all times. Of course, it doesn't have to tell. Under the circumstances, Citra might have heeded her father's advice, but she was making a bereavement call, and that triumphed every trepidation. She entered the compound through the gated arch. The gate wasn't locked. She found herself in the garden full of white, rich-smelling flowers. Gardenias. Tone colts were all about aroma and sound. They gave little value to the sense of sight. In fact, the more extreme tonist groups actually blinded themselves, and the Thunderhead reluctantly allowed it, preventing their healing nanas from restoring sight. It was awful, and yet it was one of the few expressions of religious freedom left in the world that had to give the various gods the rest. Citra followed the stone path through the garden and the church and stood at the side of the fork, and she pushed her way through the heavy oak doors of the chapel lined with pews. It was dim, even though there were stained glass windows on either side. They were not of the mortal age, but they were tonous in nature. They depicted various strange senses: a shirtless man carrying huge tuning fork with a burdened back, a stone fracturing and shooting forth bolts of lightning, crowds running from the nasty vermiform creature in the form of the double helix that spiraled out of the ground. She didn't like the images, but didn't know what these people believed, only that they're laughable, ludicrous. Everyone knew that the so-called religion was a hodgepodge of mortal age faiths slapped together into a troubling mosaic. Yet somehow there were people who found this strange ideological mosaic to be enticing. A priest or monk or whatever you call the cult clergyman was at the altar, chanting the monotone and dousing lit candles one by one. "Excuse me," Citra said. Her voice was much louder than she meant it to be, a trick of the chapel's acoustics. The man wasn't startled by her. He put one more candle, then set down the silver snuffler, hobbled toward her with a pronounced limp. She wondered if he was affected, or if this religious freedom allowed him to retain whatever scaring caused the limp. By the wrinkles on his face, you could tell that he was long overdue to turn the corner. I am a curate Beauregard, he said. Have you come for atonement? No, she told him, showing her armband before steel Scythe. I need to speak to Robert Ferguson. Brother Ferguson is on an afternoon post. I shouldn't disturb him. It's important, she told him. The curate sighed. Very well. That which comes can't be avoided. Then he hobbled off, leaving Citra alone. She looked around, taking in the strange surroundings. The altar in front of the contained granite basin filled with water, but the water was cloudy and foul-smelling. Just behind that was a focal point of the entire church, a two-pronged fork, similar to the one on the roof outside. Its pediment was 6 feet tall and the product of the obsidian base. Beside it was on the low platform, sat on the rubber mat, resting on the black velvet pillow. But it was the bident that held her attention. It was a huge tuning fork, the cylindrical, silvery smooth, and cold to the touch. You want to strike it, don't you? Go on. It's not forbidden. Citra jumped and silently chided herself being caught off guard. I am Brother Ferguson, said the man as he approached. You want to see me? I'm the presence of Honorable Scythe Mary Curie, Citra told her. I've heard of her. I'm here on the bereavement mission. On a bereavement mission. Go on. I'm afraid that your sister, Marisa Ferguson, was gleaned by Scythe Curie today on the 1:15 p.m. I'm very sorry for your loss. The man didn't seem upset or shocked, merely resigned. Is that all? Is that all? Didn't you hear me? I just told you that your sister was gleaned today. The man sighed. That which comes can't be avoided. If she didn't already dislike the Tonus, she certainly did now. Is that it? She asked. Is that your people's holy line? It's not a line, it's just a simple truth that we live by. Yeah, whatever you say. You need to make arrangements for your sister's body, because that's coming and can't be avoided either. But if I didn't step forward, won't the Thunderhead provide a funeral? Don't you care at all? The man took a moment before answering. Death by Scythe is not a natural death. We Tonus do not acknowledge it. Citra cleared her throat, batting back the verbal reaming that she wanted to give him, but did her best to remain professional. There's one more thing. Although you didn't live with her, you are her only documented relative. That entitles you to a year of immunity from gleaning. I don't want immunity, she said. Why am I not surprised? This is the first time she had ever encountered someone who refused immunity. Even the most downhearted would kiss the ring. You've done your job. You may go now, Brother Ferguson said. There was only so long Citra could restrain her frustration. She couldn't yell at the man. She couldn't use your Bokatar moves to kick him in the neck and take him down with an elbow slam. So she did the only thing she could do. She picked up the mallet and pulled all her anger into a single powerful strike of the tuning fork. The fork sounded so powerfully that she could feel it in her teeth and her bones. It rang not like a bell, which was a hollow sound. This tone was full and dense. It shocked the anger right out of her, diffused it. His muscle loosened, her jaw unclenched, her echoed her brain, her gut, her spine. The tone rang much louder than a thing should. Then slowly began to fade. She has never experienced anything that was so jarring, smoothing at the same time. All she could say was, "What was that?" G sharp, said Brother Ferguson, although there is a standing argument that among the brethren that's actually A flat. The fork was ringing faintly. Citra could feel it vibrating, making its edge look blurry. She touched it. At the moment, she fell silent. Do you have questions? Asked Brother Ferguson. I'll answer what I can. Citra wanted to deny that she had any questions whatsoever, but suddenly she found what she did. What do you people believe? We believe many things. Tell me one. She believed that flames are not meant to burn forever. Citra looked at the candles by the altar. Is that why the curate was dousing candles? Part of the ritual, yes. So you worship darkness? No, he said. That's a common misconception. People just vilify us. We worship our wavelengths and vibrations. We are beyond the limits of human sight. We believe that in the great vibration that it will free us from stagnant. Stagnant? The words Scythe Curie used to describe people who she chose to clean. Brother Ferguson smiled. Indeed, something resonates in you now, doesn't it? She looked away, not wanting to meet his intrusive gaze, and found her eyes settling in the stone basin. She pointed to it. What's with the dirty water? It's primordial ooze. It's brimming with microbes. Back in the age of mortality, a single basin could have wiped out entire populations. It was called disease. I know what it was called. He dipped his finger in the slimy water, swirled it around. Smallpox, polio, Ebola, anthrax. They're all in there, but it's harmless to us now. We couldn't get sick if we wanted to. He raised his finger from the foul sludge and licked it off. I could drink down to the whole bowl and it wouldn't even give me indigestion. Alas, we could no longer turn water into worm. Citra left without another word and without turning back. But for the rest of the day, she couldn't get the stench of that foul-smelling water out of her nostrils. The business of the Thunderhead is no business of mine. The Thunderhead's purpose is to sustain humanity. Mine is to mold it. The Thunderhead is the root, and I am the shears, pruning the limbs into form, keeping the tree vital. We are both necessary and both mutually exclusive. I do not miss my so-called relationship with the Thunderhead, nor do the junior scythes I have come to see as disciples. The absence of the Thunderhead's uninvited intrusions into our lives is a blessing, for it allows us to live without a safety net, without the crutch of a higher power. I'm the highest power I know, and I like it that way. As for my gleaning methods, which now and then have been brought under scrutiny, I say merely this. It is not the job of the gardener to shape the tree as much as possible, and shouldn't the branches that begin to reach unreasonably high be the first to be pruned? From the Greening Journal of H.S. Goddard. I guess that's a way of looking at it. What I do know is that today we read pages 212 to 228. Not bad, not bad at all. God, I am just tired. We probably are not doing the reading corner of the day today. I am just out of it today. I have no energy at all. I don't know why. So I apologize, but we're not reading that today. But we did read that. Next time we'll be reading 229 to 251, chapters 23 to 23. Nope, 24. Still on part 3. We're not going to be out of part 3 until episode 17, which is not for a long while away. I apologize, guys. Usually I would do a reading corner of the day, but I'm just totally out of it right now, and I don't know why. Like, it feels like my entire body's slugging down, which means I'm tired, but I'm like an advanced tired. So, yeah. Hope you guys have a fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.